Hello and welcome to Larry Has Opinions. I mentioned before that I've always been a mood reader. However, I have to admit that since starting this channel, between buddy reads, read-alongs, arcs from publishers and so on, I've definitely started to have more of a pipeline of books I'm about to read. Nevertheless, I don't want to give in to the whole TBR concept. So here's my spring MBR, a list of books that I might or might not be asked to read in the next few months. Let's start from fiction. I have Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan, and this comes highly recommended by both Bob the Bookerer and Erica Anderson, both booktubers whose judgment I usually trust. So I don't know that much about it, like most of the books I'm going to mention today, but I think it's about a small village in Ireland and it's a wintry story, so I should probably read it pretty soon before it gets too warm outside. Then I have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And this is because I've never read any of her books. So I think this is long overdue that I give some of her books a go. Again, I don't know too much about it. I think this is a dark academia sort of story with a mystery element. That's all I know, that's all I want to know. And then given my resolution of reading more books in Italian this year, I have L'Amica Geniale by Elena Ferrante, translated into My Brilliant Friend, which is the first of the Neapolitan series of novel. And whenever I see Italian writers breaking into the English-speaking world in this incredible manner, then I have to trust that there's something really good about these books. Although I hope that the hype doesn't kill them for me, but we'll see how it goes. Moving on to historical fiction, I have The Yield by Tara Winch, and this is because I won this book on one of Sean the Book Maniac's giveaways. And I never usually win anything, but I got lucky this time. But he set it up because he loved this book so much that he kind of wanted to spread the love. I don't know too much about the story. I know it follows some Aboriginal Australians. So that's all I know, really. That's all I want to know. But I've also seen some polarized reviews with some kind of poor reviews. So I'm really intrigued because I always like when books have some polarizing elements. Sometimes it means they're doing something different. So I'm looking forward to this. Then I have Arctic Summer by Damon Galgut. And this is purely because I love The Promise by him so much last year, the winner of the Booker Prize, that I really want to read more by him. I'm not necessarily sure if I'm going to start from this one, but it's quite possible. All I know about this is that it follows some story in colonial India about 100 years ago. That's all I know, really. But given how much I enjoyed his writing in The Promise, I really hope that I'm going to like this one as well. And then I have Game of Kings by Dorothy Dunnett. And this is purely because the worst booktube channel in the history of humankind, the Contradictorian, keeps recommending this author. And it does sound like something I might enjoy, so I might want to give it a go. And also, given that Bob the Booker is also a friend of Dorothy's, I think I might try and convince him to buddy read it with me. For thrillers, I actually have a few upcoming releases that caught my eye. The first one is Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough. And this is, again, purely because of the author. Because last year I read Behind Her Eyes by her and really, really enjoyed it. So she's coming out with Insomnia this year, and I would like to see if it lives up to my memories of her previous book. Given the cover, it sounds like it might be something quite similar, something a bit with a paranormal element and this dreamlike vibes. I just hope she's not kind of redoing the same book again. Maybe that she's trying to do something different. I'm not sure, but we'll see how it goes. Then I have 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. I know zero about the synopsis or the premise for this book. It's purely author-driven, given that he's very popular on BookTube. And my friend Mafalda Suliciel, she mentioned him a few times, even though I think he has a reputation of having some really, really strong ones and some sort of disappointing one. So we'll see in which camp this upcoming release will fall under. I'm hoping to get an arc before it gets released, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And then I have The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich, and this is not author-driven because I believe this is a debut novel. So this is purely because the premise sounded so intriguing. So this is something about receiving a package that tells you how long you've got to live left. And therefore, what would you do? Would you open the package? Would you want to know or not? That's the whole premise, which sounds amazing. I'm hoping that the execution will be as good as the premise, but I'm hoping to get an arc for this as well, so I'll report back once I've read it. Then I have Under the Skin by Michael Faber, and this is because I watched the movie probably more than 10 years ago with Scarlett Johansson playing this alien descending onto Glasgow, I think. It was a really weird story, but I remember really enjoying the movie. And then Sandy, I misreads a lot, read the book fairly recently, she liked it, so that put it back on my radar. I usually enjoy this sort of really weird stories, so I'm hoping that I'm going to enjoy this as well. Then I mentioned in one of my recent videos that I want to read more books by Philip K. Dick, and it's to my shame that I've never read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, an absolute classic of sci-fi. So it doesn't really need a lot of introduction. If you've watched Blade Runner, it's an adaptation of this book. So I'm quite looking forward to this, actually. And still for sci-fi, I have another upcoming release, and that's Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John's Mandel. I have no idea what this is about, but I know that Sea of Tranquility is this area on the moon. So I think the story has some sci-fi element. That's all I know. But I really love her writing. Station 11 is one of my favorite books ever, and I really enjoy The Glass Hotel as well, which for a lot of people was a bit more controversial or polarizing, but I really like that one as well. So I really have high expectations for this one. For fantasy, I have a couple of series that I'm in the middle of. So the first one is The Broken Earth by N.K. Jemisin, and the second book is The Obelisk Gate. You might have watched my review for the 5th season. I really enjoyed the book. It wasn't as mind-blowing as sometimes it seems to be described as, but I enjoyed it enough that I really want to continue with the series. So this is the second book, and I hope it improves on the first one as well. Then to continue my first little journey, I have Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. I've read the original trilogy as well as Best Served Cold last year, and then I read The Heroes last month, which I really enjoyed again. So I want to continue with the series. I'm not actually even sure Red Country where it takes place, but if it's as solid as most of the previous entries, with the exception of Best Served Cold, which I was a bit more disappointed by, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to enjoy this as well. And then I have A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms by George R.R. Martin. And this is purely to satisfy my Song of Ice and Fire cravings. I think this is a prequel to the main series. I just hope that it will make this wait for the Winds of Winter less crushing, I guess. And then I have a few non-fiction because I want to try and read more non-fiction this year, starting from Midnight in Chernobyl. And this is pretty self-explanatory. It kind of goes through the account of what happened during the nuclear incident at Chernobyl. I know that there was a Hulu or HBO series, one of those, a couple of years back, which I didn't watch. So I really want to read more about it without having a lot of background other than what I remember from those days, really. And then I have Under the Banner of Heaven by John Krakauer. I absolutely loved the 2 books that I read by him before, and I kind of hope that this lives up to my expectations there. This is about a group of religious extremists in the US that still practice polygamy, something like that, with a lot of weird stuff happening, I'm not sure. And then while I was Googling the cover for this, I just realized that there's an upcoming adaptation on Hulu, I think, with Andrew Garfield as well. So that kind of made me want to read it even more. And then I have The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. And this is following a number of people who have some sort of neurological disorder where they no longer able to recognize familiar people or objects, something like that. People who we typically tend to just kind of dismiss as no longer being able to be part of society. And this came highly recommended from a few people on my Discord quite recently, and also just checking my Goodreads profile, there were a few more people who I trust who gave it 5 stars. So it sounds like really intriguing. I hope you guys like this video. Please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you're planning to read this spring. Join our Discord. The link is in the description box. And I'll see you the next time.